Hey everybody, it's Irene with BrainStormAcres, and today we're going to answer that important question: how do you choose your plant varieties? The dog is sleeping. So recently I've had several people ask me how I choose my plant varieties in my garden. Now we are planting what sometimes seems like a gazillion different varieties, and it's not by some people's standards. But we do plant a decent quantity. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. 35 different types of vegetables. Oh, I don't even know that's on here. I should check that. And it's not. So make that 36 different types of vegetables. Actually, one of them's a fruit, but you know. How do we choose what variety we grow? Okay, a billion years ago when I was starting at this, I often was gifted seeds by a neighbor, or I went down to the local, they were 5 and dimes in those days, and I bought some seeds from a company that I recognized the name of, and I just read the description on the package, and I went with it. I still do that sometimes if I'm in a situation where I've done my main seed harvest for the year, I've gotten all my orders in from the different seed companies, and either somebody didn't have something I wanted, it was out of stock, I just forgot, or we decided we wanted to try something new. In the case of flowers, I am sometimes tempted by just a pretty flower. So I have been known to browse through a big box store's selection of flowers and come away with a seed packet or two. Sometimes because I just couldn't find it when I was actually looking. An excellent example of that is Black-Eyed Susans, Rudbeckia. I tried to find at the local nurseries and big box stores for probably 5 or 6 years Black-Eyed Susans. And I didn't want to spend anywhere between $10 and $25 for a small pot of Black-Eyed Susans. I just didn't, because that to me is what I call a mass flower, something that you plant in mass. And it looks best when it's got this big pile of flowers all doing their thing at the same time. And I wanted to have a bunch of them. They're a perennial. They come back every year. So you are making an investment, but it would have cost me more than $100 to buy the kind of quantity of plants that I wanted. So I had looked for seeds. I looked everywhere, and I finally found my seeds. I forget whether it was Harris or Parks, but I found them online. I literally just kept searching through reputable companies. I will not buy through Etsy. I will not buy through eBay unless I am totally 100% desperate, because you don't know what you've got until you've got it. And while some of the companies may be reputable, I don't want to disparage anyone, because you might have a friend who does this stuff and maybe they're super reputable. If I want a specific type of plant, I want that specific type of plant. I don't want to grow a hollyhock and discover when it's halfway through the summer and that thing starts blooming that it is a double pale yellow when what I wanted was a bright pink single. Because it's too late to do anything about it for that summer. I sell on Etsy. I get the whole artisan craftsman thing and all that kind of stuff, but I'm not selling seeds. I'm selling you a product. You can get it in your hand, you can look at it, and you can say yes or no right then and there and either return it or keep it. When you're growing a plant, whether it's seeds or tubers or something else like that, I want to know that if I'm buying this thing, it's actually going to be what they said it will be. You know, I ordered some seeds 2 years ago or last year. I don't remember. I'd have to look at my notes. We could not get seeds for Godfather Peppers. It's a Burpee exclusive. They were only selling, they weren't selling any seeds, and I had bought seeds from them for years and years before then. I had used up all my seeds. They only wanted to sell me plants as part of a collection. Well, we don't eat that much in the way of peppers, so I did not want a collection, and they wouldn't sell individual plants. And I don't like buying plants in the mail anyway because it has to go through agricultural inspection to get to our state. And sometimes by the time you get them, they're not in the healthiest condition, and it has nothing to do with the sender. It has to do with the agricultural inspection, especially if it's hot, hot, hot. I actually went on to, I forget whether it was eBay or Etsy, and I found some seeds that were supposed to be Godfather. They did pretty well. Do I think they're Godfather? Yes, I do think they're Godfather. Now, the problem with Godfather is an F1. That means if I knew what the mommy and daddy plants were, I could cut all the daddy parts off the mommy plant and cross-pollinate and have the right stuff. But I don't know what the varieties were that were used to produce the Godfather pepper, and although I did look for that information, I couldn't find it. I also did not want to be producing seeds for my own use. I wanted to just be able to buy the seeds, so I broke down and bought it. Am I unhappy with them? No. I think we probably will grow some more this year. We will also be growing a new variety that I experimented with last year from Haas Tools that my husband likes better, which is Mamma Mia Rosa. They produce these big roasting peppers that he just adores. So, you know, what can I say? I am picky about my sources of seeds. I don't, you know, we always joke about Joe's Seed Company, and some poor guy out there named Joe is probably has a legitimate seed company. I'm disparaging him, but I want to know that my seeds have been stored properly, that they have been checked for germination percentage and all that kind of stuff, because I'm really trying to avoid disasters. So what do I mean by a disaster? Okay, we talked earlier in one of my videos about having time frames during which seeds need to be started for your particular climate. So for instance, in my climate, in order for broccoli to be happy in the spring and to grow off before it gets too hot later in the season, and this is not taking into account that there are some varieties of broccoli that are more heat resistant than others and all that kind of stuff like that, I need to be planting my seeds between the 20th of March and the 3rd of April. Now, if I plant my seeds on the 4th of April, is the world going to end? Probably not. But if I plant my seeds on May 4th instead, the plants might not like the heat that they're going to be exposed to, and they just might not do as well. And it depends on how much that matters to you as to, you know, how much this matters to you. But I'm always trying to create the best chance of success that I can. So I have my date calculators, I have my calendar, and I have my chart of plants I'm going to plant this year. Now, how do I do that? I've got my list of things that we're definitely going to plant, and I think we decided there were 36. What I have on this list is I only have vegetables and herbs. I do not have tomato flowers. That is a whole nother can of worms for me because I grow a combination usually of perennials and annuals. That means plants that will just be alive for 1 year, which is your annual, and perennials, which will come back next year. I have been trying every year to add more perennials to my flower garden so that all I have to do is add a few flowers in the spring rather than needing to replant the entire garden every year. So last year I added calendulas, I added black-eyed Susans. The previous year I also added Echinacea purpurea, some dianthus that's perennial. Last year I added Sweet Williams, which is a perennial. That's a type of dianthus also. They have not bloomed yet. We'll see how they do this year. The pictures were great. And that brings us to another commentary. I laugh about the pictures are great because there's a particular YouTuber I watch who apparently does a lot of her planting based on pictures. And while I have been captured by pictures of flowers, I am very rarely captured by pictures of fruit and vegetables because I am more concerned about flavor than appearance. So I don't really care if it's a black tomato with red stripes or a green tomato with white stripes. What I care about is what it's going to taste like and how well it's going to hold up for my uses. So we grow, for instance, in tomatoes, we grow cherry tomatoes just for eating out of hand and in salads. We grow medium-sized tomatoes for anything we want to use them for. Sometimes that could be eating out of hand and salads too. We grow some beefsteak style tomatoes, which are larger, meatier ones that can be sliced and put on a tomato sandwich or on a BLT. And we grow paste tomatoes, which will be made into tomato sauce and stuff like that. Understanding what each type of tomato is will help you to better choose the varieties that are best for you. This year, I have not worked out the details of my tomatoes yet. I know what I grew last year, and I have very complete lists of all the tomatoes that I grew in previous years. This is a 2020 list, and it was insane. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 23 varieties of tomatoes. We were obviously experimenting heavily that year. Most of these we will not grow again. Let me be blunt. If I get 2 varieties of tomatoes and they both taste good and they both have decent disease resistance, they do well in our environment, they don't have a tendency towards any particular problems, then I'm going to choose between those based on production. So, for instance, Alaskan Fancy, Mortgage Lifter, Chunky Green, Carbon, Kellogg's Breakfast, Red Delicious, Homestead. All more than decent tomatoes. We won't be growing any of them anymore because they weren't productive enough. We found varieties that are more productive than that. So you can read the pamphlets, you can read the packages, you can read the catalogs, you can read the online catalogs, but what it comes down to in the long run, if you're going to continue your gardening journey, is you need to be figuring out what works for you, which means you need to be writing it down. So I hear people online all the time that will say, well, I had this great variety last year, but I have no idea what it was. The mom in me wants to slap them. Because you really do need to know. That doesn't mean you can get it. I mean, there's been times when, like I said, we couldn't get our Carson beans no matter how much we tried, no matter how much we were willing to go to secondary sellers or anything else. They were not available because there had been a huge fail. And years ago, seed companies would keep back stocks. So you would get older seeds, but the seeds would still be available. Well, because of the upsurge in seed sales in the last couple of years, a lot of seed companies no longer have that back stock. So if they can't buy it this year from the producers, most seed companies do not grow their own seeds. They have, I know Johnny's, for instance, has seeds that they produce themselves, other seeds that they get from local farmers, and probably some seeds and other items that they get from farther away farmers. There are some people who do not produce any of their own seeds. They buy it all through seed brokers. And there's nothing wrong with that if they're being reputable in the seed brokers that they deal with, if they're managing their stuff right, storing it correctly, and all that sort of stuff. Cool. I know of at least one seed company that contracts with a whole bunch of local homesteader types to produce their seeds. I have never bought from them because I have heard so many wackadoodle stories about getting the wrong seeds and all that other stuff. And it's impossible to know where that wrong seed part came in. So if I am growing, for instance, seeds in my garden that I am going to sell to someone, I need to know for sure what that really is. Has it been crossbred with anything else? If I'm growing a cucumber variety, how far away is the next kind of variety of cucumber plant? There are rules about that. Your seeds have to be really separated out. And if you don't get that right, then the person who buys your seeds is not going to get the right variety. For us, you know, we were at a friend's house and we had some squash. And she said it was a Hubbard squash. And it was a good squash. But, you know, I really like the South Anna butternut squash that we got from Hall's Tools last year. And that's what we're going to be growing this year. I know how big Hubbards get. And we would definitely have to do a lot of canning for that because there's only 2 of us in the house. So there's no way we could even eat 1 Hubbard, much less a half dozen of them. 2 South Anna butternut squash plants gave us 21 fruits, ranging in size from that big to that big this year. And we still have a whole stack because they've held really well. I think we've only lost 2 completely to rot. And that was early on. I think they just hadn't hardened off quite right and they had a bug in them or something like that. But everything else has either been eaten by us or passed on to friends, and it's been wonderful. And the flavor is so good. I want that. I don't want something else. Now, fortunately for us, South Anna butternut squash, we have more seeds from last year. If we did not, we could save the seeds from the South Anna butternut squash because they breed true. They are what they call a stable hybrid. Stable hybrid is when you create a hybrid and then you keep working with that until you could grow the actual seeds from the mama and papa plants, and they are always the same. And that's what we wanted, was something that was really yummy and really vibrant in terms of its growth habits, and we got it. So we're sticking with it. That's one of the big tricks to how I choose my seeds. I have my list. It says bush bean. In 2021, we grew Carson, Provider, and Royal Burgundy. And then I have a blank next to it for 2022. And that's what I'm going to do with every single one of my seed varieties here, is I'm going to look at what I grew last year, and then I'm going to assess each one of those. I'm going to know that under the pole beans varieties, I grew 3 varieties: Gita, Red Noodle, and Vortex. And Vortex was a waste of time. Some of it was just bad luck. The Vortex plants were badly damaged by a hailstorm that we had, but so were the Gita and Red Noodles, and they both came back fine, and the Vortex really didn't. So I'm going to kick that off my list because for whatever reason, we have not had success here of any great quantity of Vortex in 3 years. And 3 years is more chances than I normally give things. But no. Another pole bean that we tried was rattlesnake beans. I know some people who adore those things. I don't like the flavor. It's what I call a regional flavor. It's, I would call it a southern flavor. I grew up in New England. I have, I wouldn't say I have New England taste. I don't. I enjoy a variety of different flavors, but there is a sort of a musky bean flavor that's very popular in the South that I don't care for. So we won't grow that again. In fact, we're going to give the seeds away this year because there's nothing wrong with them. They've been very carefully stored, and somebody might want them, and we've got a seed bank that we could give to. For every one of my categories, I will go down that chart and I will talk to myself honestly about how everything I grew before worked and whether I want to grow it again. Last year, we grew 3 varieties of cucumbers. They all did really well, and I had so many cucumbers, I couldn't give them away. The only one in this house who eats cucumbers is my husband. So, last year, we grew one kind of cucumber plant based on his preference. And this year, we're going to grow that variety of cucumber plant again. I could probably grow any of those 3 varieties and he would be happy with it. But we know that the variety we're choosing works well in our greenhouse, and that's where we choose to grow our cucumbers. Less pest pressure, They don't care about the heat. As long as they're getting enough water, they'll grow like a weed. And they'll produce beautiful, straight, perfect cucumbers. So that is how I choose my seeds. It's a combination of reading the seed catalogs, knowing what we like, knowing what we grew before, and then planning ahead. And then, as a last resort, checking through what's available, because we've already been there this year, that some of the things we wanted were not available. My favorite variety of soybean is not available this year. I don't know whether they had a crop failure or what, but we're going to be switching up varieties because of that. So I hope this helps you plan your own veggies. I will be doing another veggie seed video, actually discussing varieties, specific varieties that we do. So until next time, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit this notification bell, because obviously there's lots more going to be happening. We haven't even talked about flowers yet. That's a whole nother thing. So until next time, bye. Hi, Jack. Are you wondering what's going on? Mommy's talking at the camera again. Oh my gosh.